Many years ago, as a 14-year-old, I was staying overnight at a friend's house with 3 other friends, all similar in age. We had all grown up together, except for one, who was a cousin of the kid who lived there, and we'd never met him before. His older sister, who was 16 at the time, was the babysitter while the parents were out for the evening. She decided to unearth a Ouija board from a cupboard somewhere and thought it would be a laugh to scare us shitless. This was back in the days when you could buy Ouija boards as a board game from a local toy store. So, we all gathered around, and she started off with a kind of yes or no lie detector, directing questions to each of us in turn. This caused some nervous giggles but also a feeling of unease, as we all began to feel like this was awesomely amazing, like some kind of secret that we'd all been unaware of before. Shit got strange when the sister asked out loud, "If there's anyone here, please show yourself." There was a pause of a few moments, and then a framed picture fell off the wall and onto the floor. Naturally, we all freaked the fuck out. She calmed us down and insisted we go back to the board because we had to help whoever knocked the picture down. Ashen-faced and hearts pounding, we started asking questions. I should also add that the pointer was moving smoothly and rapidly, in a completely different manner than before. "Are you in the room?" The pointer said yes. "Are you a man?" The pointer said no. "Do you need help?" The pointer said no again. "What's your name?" It spelled out Sarah. Then, we asked it to tell us a secret. The pointer spelled out, "Flip a coin." So we did. Someone left the table and got a 10-pence piece from the loose change jar in the kitchen. This was in the days when 10-pence coins were big and clunky. The coin went spinning up high into the air, and as we watched it coming down, it stopped spinning and serenely fell, edged down to land on the table. When I say land, it didn't bounce, it didn't rock. It just came down and met the table perfectly, balanced on the edge, as if someone had reached out and gently placed it there. Breaking the silence, the pointer started moving again, seemingly spelling out random letters. We soon began to realize they were initials, including middle names. A family tradition for my friend and his sister was to have 3 middle names, something not all of us knew, aside from the brother and the cousin. No one else would have known the older sister's full name, and we had met the cousin for the first time that night. Somehow, every person present had their initials spelled out correctly. The pointer paused and then spelled out 3 last words. "Children, stop now." It took me many weeks to be able to sleep properly. No one told their parents, and over the years, it became our collective shared secret. I couldn't rationalize it then, and I still can't rationalize it today. I collect Ouija boards. I know how strange this sounds. Most people collect stamps, coins, vinyl, posters, and the like. I should probably preface this by saying I have pretty extensive knowledge of the paranormal. I have been having experiences with it since I was a child. This led me to delve into the world of paranormal investigation in my teens and early 20s, which coincided with my beginning to collect the boards. Since then, I have amassed quite a collection, but there is one that I refuse to even keep in my house. I call it the Salem board. I used to do special effects makeup for films, and I was in Salem, MA, for a job. As you have probably gathered, I am a lover of strange, unusual, and all things creepy. So I was thrilled by this opportunity. I had gotten into town a few days before filming began so that I could prep, but also so that I could do a little sightseeing. I was wandering through some of the shops and happened to walk into one that had a pretty large collection of Ouija boards. Some were vintage, some were etched glass, and some were burnt wood. At the back of the shop, there was a locked display case, which immediately caught my eye. Alone at the top of the shelf was a board that looked as though it was the cross-section of a tree stump. It had the usual markings of a Ouija board, but they looked to be hand-carved into the wood. It was also covered with runes. I went to the guy behind the counter and asked, "How much is it?" "It's not for sale," he said quietly. "Why not?" I asked, puzzled. He looked back at the cabinet and then back at me. "That board is made from a tree that was used to hang witches during the Salem witch trials." I looked at him skeptically. That was a pretty tall claim. I really did want the board, though. It would look great in my collection and be a cool conversation piece. "Are you sure you don't want to sell it?" I inquired once again. He looked between me and the cabinet. $150 cash, no returns. I handed him the money, and he walked into the cabinet to unlock it. He must have noticed the confusion on my face when he handed me the board. "It doesn't come with a planchette," he explained. "The board was not exactly meant to be used." I wasn't exactly sure how to respond to that, so I just said thanks and left the shop. Fast forward a few months, and I'm back home in Seattle, in my one-bedroom apartment where I lived alone. I had put the Salem board in a box in my closet since I was waiting on a new display case, and I really didn't have anywhere else to put it. My closet had 2 sliding doors and a shelf on top of the bar where you could hang clothes. The shelf was actually pretty large, so it accommodated the box with room to spare. I had gone to bed that night and fell asleep with the television on. I was awoken around 3 a.m. by the sound of something hitting my closet door. I checked to make sure my ball python, Kronos, was in his cage. Since every time he got out, he would try to get into my closet where the hot water heater was. I saw he was curled up under his log and cautiously opened the closet door to see the box had fallen off the shelf and was now resting against the door. I was puzzled at this, but thought in my sleepiness that I must not have pushed it back far enough. I pushed the box back and went back to sleep. About 30 minutes later, I heard another noise from my closet, but this time, it was much louder. When I opened my eyes, I could see that one of my closet doors had been pushed outwards. The box had fallen off the shelf again, but this time it had done so with so much force it had wedged between my clothes and the door. At this point, I was becoming a bit concerned. Instead of putting the box back on the shelf, I placed it on the floor of my closet and shut the door. When I woke up in the morning, I turned over to grab my phone on the nightstand and saw my closet door wide open. The box had been pushed out into the middle of my room. At this point, I became concerned that this was an object with a lot of emotion attached to it, a lot of anger and a lot of pain and suffering. I thought it best to keep it in a box and put the box in my storage unit. A few years went by, and my mom kept bugging me to clean out some of the things from the unit since she needed some space for her stuff. It was in the middle of summer, and the storage unit was sweltering. I was going through boxes aimlessly, tossing things into piles when I came across the box. The room was suddenly freezing. I took the lid off and looked down. The Salem board was sitting on top of several other Ouija boards, which I had acquired over the years. They had all been cracked in half down the middle, all of them except the Salem board. I stared into the box, trying to comprehend what I was looking at. These boards looked like someone had broken them over their knee, surely not the result of being dropped or jostled. I removed the board from the box and placed it in a wooden chest that I had acquired from my great-grandmother, who had considered herself to be a witch. It remains in that box to this day. I believe there are forces in this world that we will never understand. I am sure you are wondering why I didn't get rid of the board. In a way, I feel tied to it. It called to me, and I answered. I consider myself its keeper. As long as it's with me, everyone else is safe from whatever or whoever is attached to it. About a month ago, I was sitting at the lunch table with my 6 close friends, like any other day at school. Something was off that day because my friend Amanda looked kind of nervous. It wasn't long before she told me she was going to tell me something later. I told her it's okay, and she could tell me now, so she did. Back in late July, Amanda played the Ouija board with another friend of ours, and she was scared. I thought I was going to be disappointed because we are Catholic, but I reassured her, telling her it's okay, and that she can do what she wants, and that I won't ever judge her. Anyway, Amanda asked me if I remembered when she played the Ouija board. I said, "What about it?" She said she didn't really tell me what the ghost told her. She told me that they met a ghost called Nick, who died of obesity. Amanda said he wasn't evil. So basically what happened was, Nick told Amanda and my other friend that Amanda was going to die before she was 20. Amanda told me that he also said she was going to die because she was going to be thrown into a river by a close friend. I started to panic, thinking this was me. I asked her who, and she said that our other friend called Becca. I looked beside me and saw Becca talking to our other friends and not paying any attention to us. I was scared. I asked if she was lying, and she said she swears that she's telling the truth and that she will put her hand on the Bible and say she isn't lying. I asked if she or any of our other friends were moving the planchette, and she said no, as they promised not to move it before they played. I always told her not to mess around with ghosts or Ouija boards, and I feel scared. I would also like to add that the other friend that played confirmed the story. I just don't know what to think of it. I just want to share a story that happened to me when I was in grade school. I was about 10 when my great-grandma passed away. We were very close to her since she only lived a few blocks away from where we live. She had been a lover of the paranormal and practiced Wicca when she was younger, along with her younger sisters. So anyway, her passing devastated me and my sister. One day, while the adults were busy preparing for her funeral, we decided to visit our great-grandma's house, along with 2 of our cousins to play and do a little bit of treasure hunting in her basement, along with her old witchcraft items. We found an old Ouija board, one that is made out of solid wood and has a nice glossy finish. I remember her telling us that it wasn't a game for kids, but since we missed her a lot, we hoped that we could try to talk to her through it, and all of us decided to give it a try. We placed the board on a table, set our hands on the planchette, and started asking questions, unsure if we would get an answer. After 10 minutes or so, when my cousin had given up and only my sister and I were playing, did the planchette start moving. Instantly, we both knew it wasn't our grandma because the thing that was talking to us was sinister and said some pretty terrifying things. "I'll kill you. Murder. Need blood." Out of fear, my sister and I flipped the board over, like an immediate reaction or something, and tossed the planchette as far across the room as we could. We then scampered back into the living room upstairs, leaving our confused cousins behind. They followed us to the living room after locking the basement. We told them what happened, and after a few attempts to calm us down, my sister and I gave in, thinking it was all over. We even agreed that we'd sleep there together since our parents were preoccupied. Anyway, at around 2 or 3 a.m., my cousin who was sleeping beside me woke me up to the smell of rotten eggs. This smell was so powerful I thought it would stick to my clothes. We contemplated what to do first, and after a minute of silence, my sister said, "What the hell? I'll check on it if you boys don't want to," and walked out of the room. She had always been like that, the type who wants to get things over with, so we allowed her to do it. After inspecting some of the areas where the smell might be coming from, she returned disappointed. The area was clean, as expected. Thinking there's nothing more we can do about it, we forced ourselves to go back to sleep. However, Not more than 30 minutes later, a loud crash from somewhere in the room, followed by my cousin's high-pitched screaming, was heard. I was the only one next to him, so I immediately sat up in a panic, followed by the others. I saw him on the floor, crying, saying that someone or something with cold, bony hands had grabbed his foot and dragged him off the bed. Probably at the same time we heard the crashing noise, my other cousin rushed to the main switch and flooded the room with light. What we saw shocked us. The Ouija board, along with the planchette, laid there on the hardwood floor, facing the beds we were sleeping on. The loud sound that we heard was probably the sound of wood falling flatly on another wood. The four of us wasted no time and dashed out of the house with the door open. We went to our great aunt, our great-grandmother's sister, who was living a few houses away. We banged on the door while screaming and pleading until she opened up. When we explained what happened, her face went pale, and she ran towards our great-grandmother's house with a few of her stuff without hesitation. Remember that she, along with our great-grandmother and another sister of theirs, used to practice Wicca and some other witchcraft things, so she probably knew what was going on. An hour or so later, she returned, and we received a scolding from her, but not before giving us something to eat, like a typical grandma. She said we could get an attachment if we played with that again, and that it could lead to an eventual possession. I don't care if she exaggerated on some parts of it or not, but the terror felt was legit. We never even looked at a Ouija board again after that. For some reason, my aunt decided to play the Ouija board with me when I was 8. I'm 23 now. I don't know why, other than maybe she didn't believe it would do anything. I remember everything so clearly. I was nervous, and as soon as we put our fingers on the planchette, it made a figure 8 symbol. I've read that that isn't good. Something about an evil spirit trying to get through. The spirit said it was a long-dead relative of ours, but I don't know if I believe it. We asked questions like how many kids I'm gonna have or if I'm gonna graduate college, and shortly after that, my aunt's chair breaks, and she falls back. I was scared to death. Did we upset the spirit or whatever we'd summoned? Throughout the years, I've noticed I've had a lot of bad luck. Not just me, though. My whole family. I felt like some things changed ever since I messed around with the Ouija board. I used to have bad thoughts and see shadows in the corner of my eyes, and I still do. Maybe I'm just paranoid. I also used to have dreams about demons. I'm just wondering if maybe the Ouija board has anything to do with this. Or maybe I'm just unlucky because a lot of messed up stuff has happened in my life. I was 15 and came home from school. I greeted my 3 dogs like usual and let them outside for a little bit. I decided to play a game for about 30 minutes, and somehow a swarm of killer bees came through. Of the 3, I was only able to save 1. My family wouldn't let me go outside. I had to fight through them. My dogs weren't the only ones attacked by those bees either. I believe a person was also killed. It was a nightmare. Shortly after that, my mom ends up having cancer. Thankfully, the chemo worked, but 1 year later, she goes mental. She thinks I'm the spawn of Satan, and I just feel like I'm the most unlucky person ever, even though I try to be positive. I still see shadows, and I always wake up around 3 a.m. Whenever I dream, it's a nightmare. It's exhausting, to say the least. Life is slowly getting better, and I'm just wondering if this could be the work of a demon or an evil spirit. Hey there, hope you enjoyed these stories. If you can, please like and subscribe. I would appreciate it. See you next time.